It's hot, and we're rolling. Now, let's look at a couple of words. There's a lot of words that I don't like. Words that have been used by churchianity. One of those words that's turned into a negative thing is the word preach. Do you know the difference between teaching and preaching? Teaching is presenting information. Preaching is presenting information with a measure of urging. Like, okay, let's talk to the child about wearing a bike helmet. Okay, my child, when you're on a conventional bike, your head is higher off the ground than when you're even walking. And if you fall over and you fall over fast and your head hits the ground, the beautiful bones of your head may split. Now, we're not planning to fall all the way over, but it happens. So, the communities around us request that children under 15 or 16 wear a bike helmet. And that's a rule and an expectation and a law. And it's a just plain good idea. So please, I'm your mama, I'm your papa. When you get out on that bicycle, put your hat on. We got you a hat that you liked, that you felt like was kind of cool and interesting, and you would wear it. So if you're going to ride your bike, please, I'm telling you, wear your helmet. So that's preaching. That is giving information, but also urging at the same time. Urging for positive results. So, I'm going to preach right now, and I'm going to preach on one of the topics of churchianity. But this is going to be a surprise preaching, and I'm going to lay it down heavy. Most human beings in America and elsewhere have never, I'm talking about never, they have never had true ecclesia. Now, the word ecclesia in the Greek language is translated into English to the word church, which is based on a word kirk. And that's talking about a building. But the word ecclesia means people who are called out of the ordinary world into an extraordinary friendship. Ecclesia. People who are called out of the world into an unusual or extraordinary world of friendship. Most people have never had true ecclesia. True ecclesia is in a home with a group of people who are regularly and constantly telling their own personal stories, which are usually and primarily kind of shocking and interesting. A meeting of friends in a home, friends who are telling amazing stories. And it is written, they were saved by the blood of the Lamb and good family storytelling. Now somebody's going to correct me and say, oh, and the word of their testimony. Yeah, but those words have been used over and over and over and over and over again, and they have gotten stale and lost their meaning. What it's talking about is just really great family storytelling where you learn stuff and it's interesting and you can have conversations and it's pretty cool. But also, most people have never had true ecclesia, because true ecclesia comes with the set of instructions that were being used for the first 300 years in the original Havyurot. That's the Hebrew word for ecclesia. Havyurah is one friend group. Havyurot is plural. Just like a mitzvah is a good deed and mitzvot is plural, good deeds. In Hebrew, you add OT to make it plural. It's a simple thing that you can learn. So, in the true ecclesia, in the true Havyurot, there are a set of instructions. Number one, in the former covenant, if you touched a thing called the Ark of the Covenant or went into that location in an unrighteous way, you would die. And they witnessed that experience at various times. And they put a rope around the leg of the person who went into the Holy of Holies where the Ark, the box is. They put a rope around their leg in case they died in there so that they could drag them out without going in and dying themselves for touching something in an unrighteous way. So that's just a little tidbit about what they call the former covenant, the covenant of Moses with the tabernacle and the temple. So the Holy of Holies, the mercy seat. Come on, where is it? Exodus 34:21. Exodus 34:21, is that it? It says, Yahweh Elohim, God, the creator of the universe, says, I will meet you. He's talking to a human being. He says, I will meet you and talk to you from over the wings of the cherubim that are over the box, the ark. I will speak and interact with you, and I will give you many instructions. Whoa. So there's a place where the designer of the universe, and you can think this is all stupid fairy tales, because I did for a long, long time. And only when I saw the proof of the writings that hold 200 to 300 predictions that all point to one event, which happens to be just a person showing up. It's not a government. It's not an ice age. It's not an earthquake or a war. It's just one little person that wanders around in an area about the size of New Jersey and becomes famous for being able to heal anybody and drive spirits off of people with personality disorders. Do you have personality disorders? I certainly do. And I'm candid about them as much as I can be. And that is one of the rules of coming together as ecclesia. The male human beings discern, know, and are even cheerful about, okay, here's one area where I'm still crazy. And here's another area where I just don't seem to be able to succeed. And that is the requirements and the rules when you're hanging out with me to begin getting together as ecclesia. What are the places where your buttons are pushed? What are your downsides? What freaks you out? What makes you furious? What makes you furious? And just go off. That's the first thing. Because that is actually one of the most difficult things. Unforgiveness, bitterness, anger, fury, fits of rage. And then there's the pleasures. What pleasures distract you? Are you distracted by video games and TV shows and cooking shows? And do you find yourself stuck in constant watching of stuff that makes you smile, or, you know, even your own research can sometimes draw you away from your family. So, talking about the areas where we are weak, screwed up, freaked out, misbehaving. Have you ever done something that you kind of really didn't want to do? Okay, what I did in that situation, that was a mistake. If I could go back and kind of erase some of the steps in my day yesterday, I would cut that out. Being realistic about your behavior is the beginning of true ecclesia. But true ecclesia is begun with people who are strangely willing to die for truth. If you know that there's a reality about a certain virus and vaccines, and that reality is absolutely true, if you're willing to take a stand on truth, you're going to be persecuted, you're going to be commented on, and people are going to misunderstand you and stuff like that. So true ecclesia is something that most people have not had, and that's what I'm preaching. If you're curious to actually have true ecclesia, I am. It's a thing that I've been studying now for 28 years. Because I knew when I was 14 years old that the ecclesia, the thing that they were calling church, I knew that it was fake. I could tell. I learned many things about Jesus and truth and a lot of other stuff, but I could tell that something was really fake, really wrong, and we were just going through the motions, in a way. So I left when I was 14. I was arrested by God when I was 36 years old and trained in physiological self-control. Somebody taught me how to handle my male physiology for the first time, and they could have taught me when I was 6 years old. So when I was 36, 30 years after I should have learned, I learned physiological power and self-control. And then, just a few months later, Yahweh Elohim, the friend, the invisible friend, invaded me and showed me the proof. And I was literally terrified, almost insane at that moment. And for about 2 months, I was really terrified. Because I was so concerned, and I had such a negative feeling about the church gatherings that I didn't want to go into them. But now I felt that Jesus, God, Church, and Bible was important and real, and I needed to figure out how the heck to understand it and how I would describe it to a child and a friend and just like a person that I care about. So that's the preaching. I'm telling you, you have never had consistent, regular ecclesia where you meet with a bunch of people 2 or 3 times a week. There's an amazing honesty time. It's a closed meeting. And you have a truly marvelous support of your dreams and your goals and your focus. And my gosh, I mean, and your skills are utilized. You have to make some sacrifices, but man, the benefits are a friendship that is greater than anything else you ever had and greater than any family structure that you've ever had. And that's why it's called a friend group, Havurah. Even way back in the Hebrew when Jesus was a kid, it was not called a family group. It was called the Havurah, the friend group. Why? Because even a child can speak out from the Holy Spirit. And even a non-family member has actually a word of truth for the entire family that's misbehaving. It's cool. This whole friend group thing is amazing. They never taught me. And then discovering through Michael Heiser that the principalities and powers and rulers are all of these fancy, powerful, unimaginably intellectually strong spirit beings that were known to exist way back in the pre-Abraham era of Egypt and Mesopotamia and Sumeria and Ugarte, the Syria region. I mean, there are so many powerful spirits that are running every corporation, every institution, every government, anything that gets big. If your pastor, builds a big ministry and builds a big church, there are actually scary, sneaky, fake religious demon structures that are built in. And only in the little honesty, communion, and friend group is there true continual safety. It doesn't mean that building a building is wrong. It's good to have a lecture hall. It's good to have a teaching place. It's good to have a place of worship. But if you are not sending the people home and making sure that they are in true ecclesia, honesty and communion, then you're not actually doing your real job. You're just putting on a nice Jesus information business show, and you may be feeding the poor, and you may be giving things, and you may be teaching wonderful things, and you may be doing miracle signs and wonders. But if you are not helping the people to do honesty and communion times regularly as the primary place where you stay as pure as your communion time, if you're not doing family honesty church or this friend group ecclesia stuff, if you're not doing that, you are actually operating in an antichrist practice because you're leaving things out. John chapter 8, verse 31 and 32 says, if you don't hold to his teachings, you're not really his disciples. You won't hold the truth, and you won't be free from your sins. 2 John verse 8 to 11 says, if you rush ahead and do a whole bunch of spiritual stuff, but you leave out portions of the teachings, you don't bring the full teaching. If you rush ahead and do part of the stuff, you don't have God, you're doing a wicked work, and you should not be affecting people. That's why my teaching on Family Honesty Church got this little black sign that hangs out in front of any big church building announcing we are a family honesty church. We send people home to do communion times. You can't do that in the assembly hall or in the Greek lecture hall. That is a Constantinian church. We are the Yshua church that meets in a home, and we're using this building to be community of friend groups, to be community of friend groups. That's my preaching, and that's going to go on and on and on. And all of you rascals who have known me for many years, listen, I'm still the same fun person that I used to be, and I'm being called back to my favorite pursuits, which is teaching sailing and expeditions, canoeing into the woods and onto the islands. Expeditions and teaching sailing. Please send good energy in the direction of those two things. Please send good energy in the direction of me duplicating and recording my music, which many people love, and all of these many book titles. I have mountains of information, and I'm not really good at manifesting editing. I need a team. I need other people with me because I tend to be focused on people emergencies and direct interactions with people, which could be called distractions, but at the same time, they are a constant service that I learn from at the same time. So, thank God in advance for sailing school and expedition work and business, and building lots of little home and family and friend businesses, and maintaining communion times, where the men especially are honest about everything, including the flow of the seed and the general feelings of arousal. That way we monitor what kind of spirits are messing around with our personal family. If the father's getting hit by promiscuity spirits and nobody knows that, then guess what? Those promiscuity spirits can go sit on the children and the wife and the friends and constituents. You have no idea how powerful the spirit beings are that are sitting over all of humanity. That's another thing to learn. Peace be with you.